it's Jess. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to today's vlog. It is the start of the third week of the magical readathon. I still have more classes that I need to take this semester. Can I tell you a little secret? This is actually the third time I'm filming this introduction. I filmed it once and I accidentally did it in slow motion. I filmed it again and it was all blurry. The camera didn't focus at all. So this is now my third time filming this introduction. So I actually already know what's gonna happen this week. At the start of week 3, I set the goal that I wanted to finish my alchemy class. I still have 2 classes that I need to get my alchemy qualifications for this semester. So my plans for the week are to read the Atlas Paradox for my component restoration class and to read The Familiar for my culinary transmutation class. Those are the 2 books that I set the goal to accomplish in week 3. How did it go? I'm not gonna tell you. You're gonna have to watch and find out. Welcome to the vlog. I hope you enjoy your time here, and now I'm gonna throw it to past Jessica, who has no idea how the week is gonna go because she didn't have to film this video 3 times yet. Hello and good morning. We are 2 days into week 2 already. At this point, I thought that I would be either finished with or almost finished with the Atlas Paradox. I'm not. I am about page 100. It's reading very slow. I think part of that is because it's giving nothing burger. Nothing is happening. Okay, let's start this update over. I read the Atlas 6. That is a dark academia fantasy where the Alexandrian library did not actually burn down, but it went into hiding and is now protected by super powerful magicians. Magic is commonly known in this alternate world universe that we're in here. The Alexandrian Society, which protects the Alexandrian library, is very secretive. People don't necessarily know that it exists, but magic itself is not a hidden thing. In book 1, this man named Atlas something or whatever, he selects these 6 magicians and invites them to become initiates for the Alexandrian Society, but of those 6 initiates, only 5 will advance to become full members of the Alexandrian Society. And the first book, I actually think I rated it 4 stars if I'm remembering it correctly. I did really enjoy it. Now I will say that the first book is extremely light on the plot, so I'm not really surprised that this one is giving me absolutely nothing. But the first one was intriguing because, first of all, you're meeting all these new characters and you're learning the parameters of the world, and you're learning how their magic works, and you're learning about this secret society, and there's also a little bit of commentary about knowledge and elitism and the hoarding of knowledge. A little tiny dip into privilege, but like also at the same time, all of the characters are like extremely powerful, and just by being invited into the Alexandrian society as initiates, they all become privileged, even if they weren't necessarily their whole lives. And it's very much a story of a bunch of messy people gathered together in a confined space, plotting and scheming and making alliances and occasionally backstabbing each other. And even though there wasn't really a plot in book one, it worked for me. And then at the end of book one, something goes wrong. I'm keeping that super vague. Things were supposed to go down a certain way and they didn't. And now we're in book two and nothing is happening. Something went wrong. They're trying to move forward with like making the initiates full members, and part of that is they have like this initiation like ceremony thing. It's not really a ceremony. I don't know what you would call it. It's not a test either, but like it sort of is a test, and it's literally the worst initiation test slash ceremony I have ever read. Like I was so bored that I started skimming those parts. I was like, what is this? Honestly, like we could have cut this entire section out. Like this is a waste of paper. Like that initiation ceremony portion made me a little bit upset because I was like, what is the point of this? And like, you know what? Maybe later on we'll learn what the point of it was, but I feel like no matter what the point of that was, it could have been done in a more interesting way. Like it was a waste of my time. It was a waste of paper. It was a waste of the time of the person that had to edit that portion of the book. And to be honest, I was not expecting there to be that much plot in this book either, but it is truly giving me nothing. I will say that there are a couple of interesting things. First of all, not all of the characters that you get the POV from are in the same location. That's different from book one, because book one, they were all contained within the Alexandrian society. Now we have people that are in different locations, and we're also getting new POVs that we didn't get in book one, because if we got those POVs in book one, it would have like spoiled what was going to happen at the end, because we're getting like, you know, some antagonist POVs, and we're also getting friends POV, Gideon. And Gideon is such an interesting character because their magic is all based off of dreams, and so like all of their POV sections are like a little bit trippy and ambiguous, and I like that because like it's a dream, like anything can happen. I am enjoying the POVs that are not the characters from book one. All of the sections that are from the point of view of a character that is not in the Alexandrian society, those are my favorite sections. Unfortunately, that's like 10% of the book. So I get to those sections and I'm like, yeah, finally something to like keep me reading this book. And then it's over in a couple of pages and I'm like back to absolutely nothing. I also think like the pacing is just going too slow. You only have 400 pages. We gotta get moving. We don't have time for the characters to just be faffing around shit talking each other. I'm actually gonna go read now, so I'll probably try to do a check-in when I'm like halfway done with the book, and hopefully then I'll have some positive things to say, because like I said, I really enjoyed book one. I still have 3/4 of this book to go. A lot can happen in that time. Maybe Olivia Blake just wanted to do a slow-paced start so that like we could get reacclimated with the world. I don't know, we'll see. But I'll talk to you later when I'm like halfway done with this book, or if anything crazy happens. I'm going to go ahead and buy my third scroll of this readathon, and it's a scroll of DNF because I cannot read another page of this book. Okay, so I left my bookmark in. You can see I'm just over halfway through. At the moment, this book is sitting at like a weak 2-star book, like a 1.5 to 2-star. Even if the last like 200 pages of this book were absolutely outstanding, which I don't think they will be, it would still probably max be a 3, maybe like if it absolutely truly blew my mind, a 3.5. Life is too short for me to take the risk that this book that I am starting to hate. The risk is too high and life is too short for me to give this book a chance. So I'm just gonna eat the cost of the scroll of DNF. I am putting this book down. Since my last update, which was several hours ago, still nothing has happened. First of all, let's talk about the pacing. The pacing is weird. First of all, it's slow, but at the same time, it is not making sense to me when we're with the characters that are in the Alexandrian Society physical building. It's like months and months are passing. I'll read a chapter and then the next chapter will be like 2 weeks after that, and then the next chapter will be like a month later after that. But in between these chapters, we get chapters from characters that are not physically in that building. I'm like, only 1 day has passed for them. It could make sense within the timeline, but the way it's been executed, the pacing just makes 0 sense. I know it's like really weird, but pacing is super important to me. And sometimes I have like really unpopular opinions about book pacing because I actually really enjoy slow paced books. I love hanging out with characters and getting to know them. I love when tiny little things happen in books that like culminate in something big. It's why the Beartown trilogy works so well for me. It's why I love Robin Hobb so much. I think The Lord of the Rings is another great example, though I still maintain that they spent way too much time in the Shire in book 1. Right? Like, we can agree that that was too long. Even though I really like slow-paced books, the pacing still has to feel good even if it's slow. If it's fast-paced, that's fine too. I don't care how fast or slow it is. I just need the pacing to feel good. If you're like, Jessica, what does good pacing feel like? I don't know. I don't have a way to tell you any qualifications. It's purely based off of my reading experience and my gut feeling. On top of the pacing, like I said before, nothing is happening. On top of that, I'm also like frustrated with the characters. All of the characters that get invited to the Alexandrian Society are different shades of gray-ish. They are, for the most part, also like quite selfish. In book 1, I actually really enjoyed that they were all so selfish and so messy. I think it just really, really worked. It does still sort of work in this book, but the problem is that none of the characters are like talking to each other. That makes sense based off of the characters, and it also makes sense thematically because some of this book thematically is about like the hoarding of knowledge and selfish people and privilege and blah 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 blah. So like it makes sense that these characters are not communicating with each other well. However, it's really not a fun reading experience because all of the characters have bits of the bigger picture, and if they work together, they could actually put together the picture. They would be able to put the puzzle together, and then maybe something would happen in the book. And it's also frustrating too because, like I said, at the end of book 1, something goes wrong. And I'm keeping that vague still, but I will say that because something goes wrong, the desired results are not reached. And because of that, it seems that the house, the Alexandrian Society, is like somehow draining the characters that are living there and like drawing on their magic to sustain the library basically, and like the wards that they have for like secrecy and stuff. All of the characters in the house are seeing the effects of this, and like they're feeling the effects, but they're also like witnessing them in the other characters. And it's so frustrating that these people are literal actual geniuses, and they are not willing to even discuss the fact that all of them are deteriorating. They were there at the end of book 1. They know that something went wrong. They know it wasn't supposed to go this way. And yet, when they are confronted with the fact that they are all deteriorating and they are also experiencing it, they can't even like work together and communicate about that. I get that they don't necessarily have the bigger picture yet, and I can excuse that because I can like see little bits of information from all of the different points of view that will add up eventually. But the fact that they can't even communicate about something like that is so important, like their physical and mental and like magical deterioration, they should at least work together for that. Even if they don't care about each other, they should still work to like find a solution for this, find a workaround so that, like, I don't know, they don't die. It's just so frustrating that either they're not putting it together despite the fact that they're geniuses, or that they're just like, oops, sucks, I guess. Like, which is better? And then again, like, it's so frustrating too from like an enjoyment point of view that I know the reader knows that something bigger is going on. All of the non-Alexandrian POVs are so interesting, and yet we get almost none of them compared to the Alexandrian POVs, and that all the Alexandrian POVs suck. They're all so boring. The other thing that I did want to say too is that we're getting these little sneak peeks into like philosophical discussions. I think if I told you what the philosophical discussions were about, that it would spoil too much, so I can't. I'm so sorry, that's vague. Even though I am intrigued by the philosophical things that have been brought up so far, I don't think that with 200 pages left, and I don't think based off of the first book that we're going to get enough into the meat of what those discussions could be. I don't think we're going to get any nuance. I think that it's just going to be like vaguely tiptoeing around big philosophical concepts as a way to just like make the book a little bit more pretentious and make it seem like it's smarter than it actually is. If we were actually going to have a good philosophical discussion, that could be really interesting and it could make the book like worth the time. But it's been 200 pages. I just don't think that the depth is there. It's not that I expected like a super nuanced philosophical discussion when I went into this book. As a matter of fact, I had zero expectations about that. I thought there might be like some very, very surface level social commentary, the same as there was in book one. I know I'm kind of repeating myself here, but based off of book one, I just think that like Olivia Blake kind of just put in these like ideas just as a way to make the book feel like you're smarter than it actually is. And I don't really think we're going to interact with these topics, so it's not a reason for me to continue reading the book. I'm going to add this to my unhaul for the year pile. That means that it's now time for me to pick up The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. I will probably check in tomorrow or the day after when I have something interesting to say about The Familiar. Hi, I have something that I want to show you. I'm sitting on my office floor right now, but this is my birthday present. I pre-ordered this in March and it's finally here. I have to share it. Look at it. This is the special collector's edition of Blood Mercy by Bella Roth. This is book 1 in the Blood Grace series. Look at it. Look at the foiling. This is the spine. It has the one with the blood moon. And there's a quote on the back. It's so beautiful. Look at these edges. So in this book, Leo is an ambassador as a job, but he also, like, as a craft, works glass, and he makes stained glass windows. And so, like, this is a stained glass window. I love it. It's so beautiful. Oh my god, look at the inside. And, like, it also has a special naked hardcover. Like, oh my god. I don't know if there's anything on the back. Okay, yeah, the moons. But oh my god. It's gorgeous. I will never, ever, ever read this edition. It's also signed. But this is purely a collector book. I will never, 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 never read this edition of it. I love it. It is so beautiful. I'm so happy. Okay, read the Blood Grace series. Okay, bye. Hello. I am currently almost halfway through the Familiar, and I owe you an update. I actually don't think I even said what this book was about. This book is a historical fantasy, and if you're like, what time period is it set in? I couldn't tell you. You are following 3 women. You're following, I would say, primarily Luzia, and she is a very poor scullion for a poor noblewoman, but she also has a bit of magic to her name. More than a bit, actually. She's pretty powerful. In this world, she is, like, very powerful compared to other people who have magic, but, like, her magic is limited to certain things, and, like, other people have magic that can do other things. So you're following Luzia and the noblewoman that she works for, and then also Luzia's aunt. And Luzia and her aunt are Jewish, but at the time period that this is at, you will be, like, burned as a heretic or, like, jailed and, like, converted. So Luzia and her aunt are hiding that part of their heritage. One day, then Luzia kind of gets found out for having her magic by her mistress, who is a real dick. Because her mistress is poor, like, they're quite on, like, the bottom end of the nobility, she starts inviting her friends over for dinner and making Luzia do, like, a little bit of magic as kind of like a parlor trick as entertainment for her guests, and she's trying to use Luzia to social climb, basically. And then her aunt is basically warning her, like, hey, if you keep using your magic, like, you're gonna get in trouble, you're gonna, like, catch the attention of the Inquisitors, and if they start looking into your past and they find out that you're Jewish, then they're going to think that you're a witch, because they've basically been saying that Luzia's magic is holy, and they're actually, like, small miracles that she's performing because she's blessed by God. Her aunt is like, hey, if you keep doing this, they're gonna find out that you're Jewish and they're gonna kill you. But of course, Luzia does not stop. She continues to do this. Then eventually she she catches the eye of this more important nobleman. It's like kind of convoluted to explain. Basically, there's like the king, and the king used to have a secretary, and that secretary is now disgraced. This man wants to get back in favor with the king, and so this other nobleman has found out about Luzia and is going to put her in this competition for this ex-secretary of the king, and the ex-secretary of the king is going to find like this holy champion for the king as a way to get favor back with the king. Basically, they're all using Luzia to get favor with the king. Once Luzia kind of like comes in contact with the man who's going to bring her to the competition for the other man who wants to bring her to the king, that's when she meets the familiar, and he helps to train her sort of in her magic and kind of see like how powerful is she and what can she do. And her aunt is also the mistress of that man, the nobleman. Her aunt is living under a completely fake identity where she is pretending to be a super rich widow. Luzia is kind of being trained in her magic, and she's also being trained how to act in like noble surroundings. But like, again, it's also super dangerous because they're pretending like Luzia's aunt is not her aunt, that like they have no relation to each other. And if people find out that Lucy is Jewish and then they find out that she's related to her aunt, then obviously that means that like her aunt is Jewish as well. And so then it is going to put both of them in danger. They're both walking like this very fine line between trying to get power, trying to change their status within the world. Obviously, like these people are using Luzia. That's very clear. But from Luzia's point of view, she is trying to use this to better her own position with the world. It is one of the themes within this book of women wanting more. I actually really like that theme. I'm liking Luzia as a main character. I like her ambition. I like that she wants more from life, and she knows that it's dangerous. She knows that this could end in her death, in her mistress's death, in her aunt's death, and she still is like, I have to take this chance. She's like, I can't keep living the way that I am. That is kind of the theme for all of the women. All of the women want more from life. They want to be happy. They want to be comfortable. And at the same time, all three of these women are lonely. Luzia lives with her mistress. She actually doesn't get to see her aunt very much at all. And even though like they are related and they do have a relationship, because her aunt is living under this false identity, she has never done anything to help Luzia because she wouldn't be able to do that and still maintain her secret identity. Luzia's aunt is lonely because she's living under this false identity where she has nobody except for one maid. Luzia is lonely because she's living this life of hard labor every day and poverty, and Luzia's mistress is also lonely because she's in a loveless marriage where she pretty much doesn't have any friends because of their social standing. So all of them are fighting for a sense of fulfillment in their lives. They're fighting for a sense of love, and most of all, they're fighting for a sense of control. You know, they want to feel like they are in control of their own lives, and they want to feel like they are safe and secure. Particularly Luzia has no power at all. She is at the very bottom of this. You better believe after a life of all three of these women being powerless and lonely, that when they're finally offered this chance to get some power in their life, some control over their life, that they're going to seize it. And it's a really big gamble because Luzia is going to be in this competition to become the king's holy champion. If she wins, she will have a massive amount of power. She will be working for the king. At the same time, if she loses, she will be disgraced, her mistress will be disgraced, her aunt will be disgraced, potentially they will be killed. So the entire situation is very precarious for them. And then on top of that, you also do have this familiar. It's this man, Guillen. I hope I'm saying that right. I have a hard time getting my mouth to say Spanish names properly. But basically, he's like this immortal and he is bound to serve the nobleman's family. So he's been like serving the head of that noble house for generations. He desperately wants to be free. So the nobleman basically is like, hey, if you can make Luzia the king's champion, then I will have enough power that I no longer need you, because like I'm the one that discovered her even though he didn't. So he's saying like, I will get power if Luzia is chosen, and then once I have that power, I will release you from our bargain that like binds you to the family. That's where we're at with this. I just got to the part where the competition is about to begin. I did kind of expect this to be gothic. It is not, in my opinion, but I will say that Leigh Bardugo's writing is absolutely fantastic. I'm not entirely sure how I'm gonna feel at the end of this book. I'm almost halfway in, and honestly, it could really go either way. I don't have a strong feeling whether I'm going to love or hate this book, so it remains to be seen. I hope that I will simply fall in love with the second half of this book. I don't have any plans today except for reading. I think I might make Jake take me to get an iced coffee. Other than that, I think I just want to sit down. I want to put Buffy on as some background noise. I am currently on season 3, I think, in Buffy, and I want to finish this book. So those are my plans for today. I will check in later. Hello, guess what? I finished another book. It has been like 7 hours since I checked in. I may or may not have passed out on the couch reading this book. Oh, by the way, if I'm sounding kind of like nasally or congested, I am. I might be getting sick. I don't know yet. I feel like a little gross and a little bit crappy, but I don't know if I'm actually sick or if it's just the fact that I generally feel pretty crappy on a regular basis. But anyways, The Familiar, I finished this book. I genuinely don't know what I want to rate this book. I think I'm somewhere between a 4 and a 3.5. I feel like objectively this book is fantastic, but like again, the same with the other Leigh Bardugo books, I just feel a little bit of a sense of detachment to it. But when I think about the characters and how interesting and complex they are, and I think about the actual writing, and I think about the themes within the book, and I think about like how the book it was written like tonally, I'm like, objectively this is a fantastic book. Objectively, it's like a 4 or a 4.5. But in terms of like how I felt while reading this book, the reading experience, it wasn't that I didn't enjoy the book. I did enjoy it. I wasn't bored at all, but I just feel this sense of like detachment. And I don't know how else to put that in words. It's like while I was reading this book, I was very aware that I was reading a book. I know that sentence is like, well, duh, Jess, like, of course you're aware you're reading a book. You're reading a book. When you're reading a book, you don't want to feel like you're reading a book. You just want to be in the book. I think potentially on Goodreads I might give it a 4 because I feel like I kind of feel like I have to because of how objectively good I think the book is. But at the same time, I just want you to know that like my personal rating is probably like a 3.5. I also think that it just comes down to the fact that I don't think Leigh Bardugo is for me. Now, that being said, I'm not unhauling this book. I am going to keep it. And even though I literally just said that I don't think Leigh Bardugo is an author for me, I could see myself rereading this book. I think that this is a book that gets better on a reread. And again, I also want to say that like a 3.5 is still a good rating for a book. Like by no means do I think that this book is bad. I enjoyed the entire time with this book. I never once considered DNFing it. I just think that there's something about the way Leigh Bardugo executes the books. I just don't think that I should continue picking up her new releases because I don't think that she can give me a 5-star book. I know in this case, it is not about the book. It is not about the author. It's not about the writing style. It is purely just a me thing. I'm so sad about that. I want to love Leigh Bardugo, but that's where I'm at with it. I don't want to tell you any more about the plot of this book. I don't want to spoil anything for anybody. I will say that I recommend this book to people who enjoy Greek tragedies, and I don't want you to hear me say that and then automatically think, oh, this is a sad book, it has a sad ending. That's not what I'm talking about. So I think thematically and tonally, this book took inspiration, Leigh Bardugo took inspiration from tragedies, because it's not necessarily about how sad the book is. It's more just the fact that we have these 4 characters, all of them are flawed. They all feel very real and compelling. And the thing is, because they are flawed characters, they are making choices that you, the reader, knows could be very, very bad choices. It's not that they're inherently bad choices. It's not that they're making evil choices. It's just that these characters are making the only choice that they can, given their personality and their character flaws. Like, you as the reader can see who these people are, and you're like, of course they have to make those choices. They wouldn't be themselves if they didn't make these choices, but you can also see how these choices potentially might be leading them down very dangerous, bad paths. And also, very similar to Greek tragedies, there's also this theme of fighting against your own fate and like trying to make your life better, trying to change your circumstances, even though fate might have other ideas. You had these characters and you're kind of getting this foreshadowing of like how their story is going to end, and the characters can see this end coming, and yet they're still fighting against it. They're trying to change their circumstances. And I just think that, like, if you like those elements of Greek tragedies, then I think that this book will really, really appeal to you. I especially loved Lucia. If we're talking about this in terms of Greek tragedies, I love that her fatal flaw is like her ambition and her desire for power. Again, I don't want you to think that just because I am comparing this to a Greek tragedy, that it means inherently that the story is a sad one. I am not telling you how it ends. I'm not even gonna say how I felt about the ending, because I just don't want to give you any spoilers. I don't want to give you any impressions on how this book ends. I'm just saying that I can tell that Leigh Bardugo was inspired by Greek tragedies when she wrote this. I think that if you like that, you'll like it. I think that I'm going to close this vlog out here. I know that I technically have a day and a half, so I could try to work on the lore quest, but to be honest, I don't think I'm gonna finish a book in a day and a half. I still have to like sleep and work and everything tomorrow. I hope that you enjoyed this vlog. I really appreciate you spending time with me today. I appreciate you hanging out. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. I still have one more weekly vlog for the Magical Readathon coming up. Once again, if you are enjoying this Magical Readathon content, then I urge you to check out G, the creator of this. She is also vlogging her semester, and I also urge you to check out my friend Kitty. She has already uploaded her first part of the Magical Readathon, and her second part of the Magical Readathon vlog should be coming soon. Thank you for being here. I hope that you stay safe this week. I hope that the fall weather is coming for you and it's nice and cool where you are, and I will see you next week. Goodbye!